Bienvenue tous and welcome to our international press review. All the world's press digested for you this morning by Catherine Spencer. Catherine, where would you like to start?
First of all, I want to start with Jacques Chirac. Now, he spent several hours in front of an investigating magistrate yesterday. He's a formal suspect accused of misusing public funds when he was mayor of Paris. Now, in Le Monde, he actually sets out to defend himself. In a long open letter, he basically sets out to justify. He says, he was under a lot of pressure. He had a lot of various roles. He was the mayor of Paris, but at the same time, he was also the head of a political party. He was the prime minister as well. He needed a lot of special advisors in order to ensure that he could carry out his various roles as efficiently as possible. So he says that, look, he needed all these special advisors. Some of them were on short-term contracts, but it was all completely legitimate.
So he's painting the picture of a hyperactive president in the mould of Nicolas Sarkozy, perhaps, but of course a few years earlier.
A little bit. Well, he's basically saying, look, everything I did was for the good of Paris.
Ah, okay. Well, there you go. That's Chirac's line. In Le Monde, which is a left-leaning kind of paper.
Absolutely.
So quite interesting.
Absolutely.
Any more
in the
reaction
Spanish
to
National, in
Chirac?
El País, it says about the significance. He's the first. It's the first time in the history of the Fifth Republic that a former president's actually been a formal suspect. So, and the fact that it happened while he was mayor of Paris, which paved his way to go on to the presidency, was also significant. And Le Croix also, it's a Catholic French paper, which says that we mustn't forget that just because he's a former president and prime minister, that you shouldn't forget that he's innocent until proven guilty.
Ah, sort of a rare sort of reflection there towards the justice system, which still exists, we're pleased to announce. What's next, Catherine?
Okay, well, staying with France, we're taking a look at the strikes, which obviously, if you're living here in Paris, have been sort of the main object of discussion for the past few days. Negotiations, everyone was around the table yesterday, unions, government.
That's a big table, isn't it?
Well, apparently, yes. Basically, they talked, they have gone some way towards reaching a compromise, but there's no fixed end in sight as yet. Although a lot of the unions who haven't gone on strike are saying, look, it's become very extreme, it's politicised, and it's really time to...
Sorry, Catherine, the great days of trade unionism in Great Britain, they used to describe these sessions as beer and sandwiches. I can't imagine it being beer and sandwiches here. It's more like Beaujolais Nouveau and
Absolutely.
Canapé, I suppose.
Much more sophisticated.
Can you move on to your next one?
Okay, and there's just a cartoon in La Liberté Algérie, which is an Algerian publication which shows a group of legal immigrants being very glad that they chose the sea to get to France and not the rail network. Also, I wanted to do something. There's an interesting report on Afghanistan's opium industry in a Japanese paper, Asahi Shimbun. It carries an in-depth report looking at the cost of the trade. It paints a depressing picture of children who are dealing drugs, babies who have been born heroin addicts, of a huge culture. Apparently up to 4% of the population in 2006 were believed to be addicted to heroin. Also in Taliban-controlled areas, the production of it's going up. They think that perhaps 93% of the world's opium produced illegally is actually coming from Afghanistan, and it shows no sign of stopping despite efforts of Karzai's government to try and crack down on it.
Okay, Catherine, we've run out of time, which is good because you were going to deal with the football, but that would just depress me given that England had crashed out of Euro 2008. So we'll say enough said about that one. Thank you, Catherine, for that entertaining review there of the world's press. You're watching France 24. Stay with us.